I have always believed that everything that was inside of me didn't matter. Okay, I have always believed, well, I was taught that the inside of a person doesn't matter. It's not about who you are, it's about what you do and how you feel and what you need and everything that's about, everything that makes you you doesn't matter. And because I have learned that, I spent most of my life not knowing who I was, not having the ability to express myself. I didn't have any needs. I didn't have any desires. There was not really anything that I wanted. I didn't exist. I was a walking empty shell. And when we experience this walking around as an empty shell, we are, first of all, we are neglecting our own needs, our own desires, our own body, our own everything that we are. But we are also creating the momentum of our life that we don't matter, that what we have been taught outside, that what people are expressing and experiencing outside holds higher value, matters more than what we experience inside, than who we are inside, than what we have inside. And essentially, when we are children and we're experiencing this, what's really happening is that without our parents having this in mind, having this in check, they are actually trying to control us, to create mini versions of who they are. Because in their world, what they have been taught, their level of emotional awareness was that I was taught to follow the rules of my parent. Therefore, my child has to follow my rules. But what happens when this goes unchecked is that the rules that we are being forced, stuffed in this tiny little box and controlled and manipulated and pushed and forced to follow, create resentment in us, create a disconnect, create discontent, discouraged, powerlessness, hopelessness, despair, and essentially depression too. And I'm not saying that everyone's working on being depressed, but what I mean with depression is that very often with parents walking around unchecked and giving their rules as the way of living, is that they only allow for a certain range of emotion. They only allow from, let's just say, -5 to +5. So when we experienced ecstatic joy, like all the way to the core, that just made us want to scream and jump and be so excited, +15, we were being shut down because there's no need for that. Come on, like, no need for that. Be quiet. It's annoying. You're annoying. You're loud. So we dimmed it down. But at the same time, when we experienced a sorrow so deep or anger so furious that we could nothing but express that. -15, the same thing happened. You're too loud. Stop that. There's no need. So we were guided up again until we only had that small range of emotions to navigate by, because that was a box within that we were accepted. That was a box, that was the rules that our parents created that had us be accepted. And when you're a child, the only thing that you want is to be accepted. You want to be accepted by the tribe, by your parents, to feel safe, to know that your survival, survival, not thriving, not living, but your survival is taken care of. So if the tribe only allows for -5 to +5, that's what you will navigate by and allow yourself to live by, because that's what will ensure your survival. And this happens inside of every single child. And this needs to happen. It's not about that. It needs to happen. It's not that your parents have done anything wrong, blah, 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 blah. It needs to happen. But we're coming into a place now, as we get, like, when we get adults, when we get like aware and we start to questioning things, and we suddenly want something else for our lives, and we see that this shit that's been going on isn't really what we want for our lives. We are being like, no, this is not me. This rule doesn't feel good anymore. This rule doesn't do anything good for me anymore. And this rule is most certainly not something that I want to give to my kids. This rule is preventing me from speaking up in my relationship. This rule is making me a pushover. This rule is making me hide away from life. This rule is preventing me from enjoying myself. This rule won't allow me to go after what I want. And so all of these rules that were created in our mind during childhood is what we are living by as adults, as teenagers, as kids, all throughout our lives, if we leave them unchecked. Okay, if we leave those rules unchecked, nothing will change, and we will just keep going about living by the same fucking rules, the same boxes, the same controlling and manipulating and forceful patterns that was stuffed down our throats because they didn't know better, because that's what they experienced, so that's what they knew, that hey, that's what works. But if we don't challenge those, if we don't explore those rules, and dare I say those imaginary rules, because they are just imaginary, it's not really a rule. Your mind has just made it so that this is a rule that we live by, this is a rule that we follow, and this is a rule because that's just how it is, because that will get us accepted and our survival is set. But at a certain point in our lives, it's no longer about survival. It's no longer just about the survival, because we got the survival in check. We can take care of ourselves. As soon as we, go out and get some money, and we know how to socialize, and we get the ball rolling. it's no longer about survival. Because our mind still thinks that our life is about survival. Because that's how it works. It works to keep us alive. It works for us to survive. But I want to ask you this, because this is a question that I myself ask myself. Do I want to just survive? Or do I want to thrive? Do I want to enjoy myself and feel a love so breathtaking that it takes my breath away? Do I want to experience joy so potent that I'm left in awe? And do I want to laugh and giggle and have fun and act out like that small child that lives inside of me, that I still am? Do I want all of that? Because if I do that, if I want to break the scale of +5 is the max that I'm allowed to experience, then I gotta challenge those rules. I gotta break them. I gotta bend them, manipulate them, explode them, neutralize them. Whatever word fits your box. And whatever word fits the rule that you're working with right now. Because some rules are good. They just need a little tweak. And then instead of a rule that's constricting us and holding us in, we can flip it around to make it a standard. And if it's a standard, it's something we're standing on, something that's the baseline of, okay, this is the minimum of what I can accept. And it's no longer a rule that's holding us down, keeping us in and contracting us and constricting us from moving in growth and enjoyment. No, it gets to be the base of what's allowed, the base of what we want to experience in our life. It's nothing to do with achieving. It's about what we want to experience, because you can never achieve a state of being. It's not something that you achieve, it's something that you are. And you can't achieve something that you are. It's not an achievement, it's a state of being, it's a state of thinking. It's your whole essence that needs to be accepted, that needs to come out and shine, that needs to be seen and heard and loved. Because as I said before, it creates, like, if we are only working within these frames, -5, +5, it creates this disconnect, because we are only allowing a fraction of our essence, of who we are, to come out to play, to come out to express itself. And the thing that a lot of people that I've come across is forgetting is that when you go up the scale, you also got to go down the scale. You can't just open up for the +6, +7, +8, up to +15 and expect the minus not to follow suit. The minus has to follow suit, because it's a balance. It's a dance. And really, and this is something I'm going to talk about in a later episode, I'm going to redefine what this scale actually means. I'm going to redefine how we work with it. Because seeing it as just this linear scale of do, that's a rule too. That's a rule that we're just making up. The same as that the minus is actually negative and the plus is positive. That's just a rule that we're making up too. And it's all of these rules that's living inside our minds, inside our society, inside our hearts, inside our energy, inside our being, inside everything that we are, everything that we think. It's those rules that we're going to challenge here. It's those rules that I want to explode. It's those rules that we are going to tweak. It's those rules that we are going to burst open and turn around to our own advantage. Because we needed to learn and have these rules for us to be who we are today. We needed that. No doubts about it. I would not be who I am right now if all of these rules that I have already busted open and exploded and bursted into oblivion, if they weren't there. So despite having the memory of a really rough, hard, nerve-wracking, scary, and unsafe childhood, I wouldn't want to be without it. I wouldn't want to be without it. I wouldn't be me without it. I wouldn't be here, both as this person, but I wouldn't be here. Just try and think about that. If you hadn't experienced everything that you have, you wouldn't be here. You would still be here, but you, who you are right now, you wouldn't be here. You would be here in some other form, but you right now wouldn't be here. And then you can think about, but who I am right now, is that who I want to be? Or am I going to flip this around like the rules and make this the baseline, the standard? Okay, to here, no lower, and then we're going to move up. Because that's what I did when I hit my first rock bottom in 2019. Okay, it was my first rock bottom, but it was the rock bottom that made me propel upwards. It was definitely not my first rock bottom. Oh no. Anyway, I don't remember the exact situation. I just remember I was a single mom. I had a 2-year-old, and I think he was 2 months old at the time. I was alone, and I had been alone since before my youngest was born. And the sleep patterns were horrible. I slept like 2 times 10 minutes every hour during the night, because otherwise they were awake. They shifted being awake. And I always had to get up, and I had to walk around with my youngest because he had neck problems, because he had been, he was so ready to come out that his head actually got stuck inside my pelvis very, very early. So he hadn't, he could move his neck inside my womb space. So he was so stuck in his neck that he couldn't like turn his head, and he couldn't nurse properly. So even though we were taking care of that, he was only 2 days old when he had his first treatment for it. I still had to get up and walk with him for him to fall asleep. So I didn't sleep. And I don't remember the exact situation, what happened. I just remember that I got so furious. I got so frustrated. I was so filled up with pain and despair and sadness, and I just couldn't do anything with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't have an outlet for it. I didn't know how to transform it into anything else. I just had it. And in pure you know, those moments where you disappear, like you're still there, but you disappear, like you have no longer any control of what's going on, what's happening, what you do. I went to the kitchen. I grabbed the scissor. This was not the first time that I self-harmed myself. I had done it a lot, like in my teen years as well. And I just started slicing over my arm. Not, you know, it wasn't, and the controversy in this is that so many is like, oh, but if you're not doing it properly, you're just doing it for attention. But no, it's nothing to do with that. That's a rule again. You don't need to self-harm yourself because you want to die. You can just self-harm yourself because you don't want, like, because you have so much inside that you don't know, you need an outlet for. And that's what happened. But the thing about this is that my kids were awake. My kids were awake. And my 2-year-old walked in on me. Rather, I think he was already in the room when I did it. And when all of that energy inside of me had gotten, you know, that outlet that it needed, I just fell to the floor and I started crying. I hugged my 2-year-old who had seen this, who had seen his mom in this complete rage fog of despair. Just running a scissor, slicing a scissor up and down or across her arm, like too many times to count, too fast to count, too hard to count. It wasn't like anything calculated. It was, you know, it's just boom, 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 boom. I just have to have that outlet. And I sunk to the floor. I cried. Took him in my arms. And in that moment, I promised him that I would find a better way. I promised him and me that this would never happen again, that I would do something differently, that I would learn a way to deal with this, that I would learn a way for this not to happen again. And that I would give him something better than what I had. I had already done that, but right there I made the promise. And I haven't looked back since. Not once. I completely obliterated that part of me that was attracted to, connected to that kind of energy outlet, that kind of behavior, without making it anything bad. And I can say, you know, because I have healed that part of myself, I am over that now. So I can say, like, it's nothing bad. And for me, it was an experience, you know, those, like when you walk on, like the first man on the moon with the flag, I don't even know if it really did that, but like, you know, those really groundbreaking experiences that just obliterates with everything that you thought was possible. So I think that by sharing this story with you, that no matter how far down you've been, no matter where you come from, no matter who you are right now, no matter all the thoughts and the limitations and the rules and the fears and everything that's keeping you from making the step, that's whatever step it is, it's not real. It's not real. We think that it's real because our mind makes it real, but it's not real. And it's not something that's going to just change just by knowing this. It's not something that's just going to flip and then we do something else because it's not real. It takes time, it takes devotion, it takes energy, it takes work, and it's a commitment. It's a fucking commitment to choose you. It's a fucking commitment to keep choosing you. Because at that time, I didn't have my back. I didn't know anything of anything. Like, I didn't know. I was this empty shell. And the first thing I needed to do was to empty that shell by going down on the scale. And the journey that I took was that I went down the scale before I went up the scale. And some people go up the scale before they go down the scale. There's nothing right or wrong. It's just what fits you. So fuck everybody else's journey. Take from it what you can. Take from their words and their experience and their pain and their pleasure and their joy and their sadness and their lessons. Take from that. Let it sink in. Use it the way that you can. Or do not. I urge you, because this is a mistake that I made, that I have actually only just recently discovered that I did. Don't take these words, experiences, lessons from other people that you see. Don't take them in and make them your new rules. Don't do that, because it'll keep you trapped in the same loop of rules that are constricting you, contracting you from being you. So what we're doing here, what I am doing here with this podcast, in my coaching business, in my work, in who I am, in my life, it's about fucking those rules. Because we don't need the rules. We need to flip them around to standards. That's then something we can stand on, something that can carry us through our life. But we don't need new rules that hold us back. And I did that. I just replaced the rules made by my parents with rules I saw in the coaching industry. That, okay, this is how you are in a masculine, feminine, healthy, polarized relationship. Okay, this is how you are in parenting. This is how you are in a business. And the more contradicting messages I saw, especially in the business part, and I burned out trying to follow all of these new rules. So fuck the rules. And even though you're like, but I don't have any rules, I don't even know. This is something I'm going to talk about later as well in another episode. Ooh, I have so many things I want to talk about. Because they are there. Trust me, they are there. Even though you're not realizing it, even though you don't know it, even though that you don't necessarily see them as rules, you can call it something else. But for me, It was rules that I lived by, that I stood by, that I had vowed never to break. I've changed that vow. I follow the law of society. I follow, no doubt. To the point, I follow the laws, but I bend the rules. I fuck the rules. I eat the rules. I obliterate the rules. The rules don't justify me. The rules don't define me. The rules are something fun, are something to play with, something to master. Because rules are really just energetic patterns. It's really just patterns. It's patterns in your mind that we have perceived as the law. And we followed the law. We know we followed the law. But we need to separate what's real, physical, solid law of society and what's made up rules of our mind. Those two are not the same. And on that note, I'm going to leave you for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.